All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very special edition. We have a special guest on the Many Last Words podcast. This is Kennedy Landry, MLB beat writer for the Texas Rangers. Kennedy, thank you for coming on. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for hopping on. We have some mutual friends. They threw our name out onto the ring, and you were more than gracious enough to come on and talk some ball. So the Texas Rangers. I kind of first I just want to get to know a little bit about you in that realm. How did you come into the realm of sports reporting? Where did you start with that? I know you were involved pretty heavily into your college journalism programs. I did a little research last night.
Absolutely. Obviously, I went to LSU. I'm a huge LSU fan. Grew up in New Orleans, so that's kind of ingrained in the culture there, obviously. And I went to college and kind of not planning to be a journalism major, kind of fell into that a little bit. In one of my first classes in journalism in college, Kelsey Wingert, who used to be the sideline reporter for the Braves, now is the sideline reporter for the Colorado Rockies. And she went to LSU. She was just speaking in a class, and I was like, "That sounds super dope." Like she just, travels around. It's to talk baseball. I played softball growing up, so that kind of I have a lot of knowledge in that kind of realm. Um, yeah, so I talked to her after that class, and she was like, "You should apply for the student newspaper, student TV station. Like, find any way to get involved in any way that you can." So I applied for the student newspaper. I started covering gymnastics that year. LSU is a really good gymnastics program, so that like doesn't sound like the most prestigious beat, I guess, coming out of the gate there. But that LSU program is super popular, and they fill up that basketball arena, and they have a higher attendance than the basketball team a lot of the times,
Mhm.
especially when basketball is not really doing too hot like the men these last couple of years. So just kind of got bigger and bigger, and I started covering gymnastics, and then softball, and then basketball, and then football, and every sport matters at a school like LSU. So all of it was really exciting. And I ended up being the sports editor. I didn't apply for it. It's just somebody quit, and they were just like, "Hey, you got to be the sports editor now." So I kind of ran the sports section of the student newspaper for a couple of years, and internships and this, that, and the other, and here we are.
That's awesome. If you don't mind me asking, what years during LSU's athletic run?
uh, my senior year was the Joe Burrow year for sure.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
I covered that entire run. Was at the national championship game in January of 2020. It was super exciting, obviously, and just watching that entire group of guys grow from that the Jamars and Justins, and them watching them from their freshman year to being on top of it all, that in 2019 2020 was absolutely phenomenal.
Where do you land on that kind of debate? Like, are they the greatest NCAA football team of all time? Is that
I
what?
mean, I think personally, look, I'm wearing an LSU like sweatshirt right now. Like personally, I have to ride with my boys, and I think obviously they're in discussion. 15-0, something that wasn't done at that point, especially in the college football playoff era. And I know you have the Miamis and the Nebraskas back in the '90s, and whoever it may be, but I think you stack up that LSU team against anybody from any era, and they'll compete. That was an elite offense, an elite defense that doesn't really get talked about because of how good Joe Burrow and that offense was. But that defense has got better as that season went on too. If you look at some of those early games, obviously that we talked about that shootout with Texas and Austin that year. The third and 17 throw from Joe to Justin, that it was a blowout, and not a blowout. I mean, but it was a shootout,
Mhm.
and the defense kept getting better. They didn't have shootouts like that. They were up against Bama at halftime in Tuscaloosa. And Bama came back, but that defense was really held steady there to keep a win. So I think that it's a really all around great football team that has to stack up against anybody.
Yeah, I remember just that whole season being like that team just looks different on TV. Um, before we get into baseball, I did kind of think on the back of my mind, your football team fired their coach. So, what are your thoughts on that? What do you think?
It needed to happen, obviously. I was personally never a fan of the hire. I think the best thing you can say about Brian Kelly is that he brought stability to a program that needed it. Obviously, at the last couple of years of the Coach O era did not go as planned after that national championship, and they lost a ton of scholarships. They were playing from behind a lot of the way. So Brian Kelly did. I will give him that compliment in that he came in and stabilized things, especially in a very chaotic era of college football with NIL and transfer portals and all of these things. That being said, he also consistently underperformed with the rosters and the talent that he was given. You have a Heisman winning quarterback in Jane Daniels, you have Malik Neighbors, you have Brian Thomas Jr., and you go 10-2 and don't make the college football playoff. That's just not something that should happen. He's
Right.
never able to hire two good coordinators on both sides of the ball. It's either a really good offense or a really good defense. And he's never been able to have both of those things, at least at LSU, that has been able to carry him to a playoff when should be the standard at LSU. So, especially after these last 2 weeks, LSU should not lose to Vanderbilt. All due respect to Vanderbilt, who is having a phenomenal season. I think Clark Lee is great.
Hmm.
LSU is not a program that should lose to Vanderbilt. You should
Right.
not get blown out by Texas A&M at home at night. Like all of those things obviously add up, and then I think the cultural fit is something that gets overblown, but you can't be a bad quote unquote cultural fit and keep losing games like this and keep underperforming. So I
Right.
think nobody would care about the cultural fit if Brian Kelly was going 10-0 every year, or 11-0 going to the SEC championship, especially in an era where Nick Saban's not running the SEC.
Hmm.
That should be something that he should be able to compete with the best of them, and he has not been able to do.
Right. I didn't even take into account the SEC is a little more open than it has been in the past with what is his name? Caleb DeBoer? Kalen DeBoer.
Kalen DeBoer, yeah.
That's right. Um, wow. A lot of did not expect this to turn into NCAA football.
Sorry, I had a lot of thoughts and feelings that I don't get out these days because I don't cover college football anymore.
Right. I am always so like taken aback by just how deep the SEC football like mind works with their culture and how much pride they have in their program. I went to San Diego State, and so we don't
Sure.
care. We're a
It's a
basketball
different,
school,
yeah.
but yeah, I've always admired that. I guess I can say about SEC. So I don't have the deep knowledge that you might have. I just tune in for the playoffs and the bowl games.
I get it. It's ingrained in our culture, just in the SEC and even in the Big Ten. It's just you wake up every Saturday and you're gonna watch the Tigers or the Tide or whoever your team may be. It's just it's how it is.
Hmm. Yeah, that's cool. I might have to pay a little more attention moving forward, but let's get to why we're here. Let's get to how about let's start with the Texas Rangers. It was an 81 season, so can't really say anything too positive or negative in either direction. I
Oh, I
saw,
can.
oh really? Do tell.
No, I mean, I think 81-81, I think, is the perfect way for this season to have gone.
Mhm.
Kind of when you take a step back and look at it big picture. It was the best pitching staff, the best rotation in franchise history, was the best defense in franchise history. They set a record for fielding percentage. They had 5 Gold Glove finalists. Um, Again, you have a rotation that's headed by Jacob DeGrom, who has been one of the best pitchers of his generation. You have Nathan Eovaldi, who is a guy that everybody loves, and you have a really good rookie pitcher in Jack Leiter, and the offense consistently underperformed at every step of the way. Quite frankly, and it's well documented, and we've all written about it, and you see it. You look at this roster, and you say this is a team that should be in the postseason, that should be competing for the division, and for second year in a row after the World Series, the offense completely underperformed and regressed across the board. Every single player. There is not one player that got better from last year to this year on the offensive side of the ball. Um, and that quite frankly is why they did not make the postseason. If you look at how this pitching staff performed, how this defense performed, they should have been in the postseason, and they didn't. And you see why. And that's things that shouldn't happen.
Right. I think I was during my Kennedy Landry research last night. I saw your Ask Me Anything on Reddit. you were speaking about the change in hitting coach between Brett Boone and I can't remember who it was before him. What exactly what role does a hitting coach play? How major of an impact does it have on the lineup to create that shift between the hitters' mentalities, their approach, and everything that goes into what goes on in their mind when they step up to the plate? And how did that change so much?
Yeah, so Donnie Ecker was the offensive coordinator for the Rangers over the last 5 years. His first year was 22, which was another third place finish in the AL West. They didn't make the postseason. But then in 23 they had the best offense in the American League. They had Corey Seager, who finished second in AL MVP voting. You had Marcus Semien finish third in AL MVP voting. You had all stars all across the field, and Dolis Garcia, Jonah Heim, Josh Young, like all they had a really good offense that kind of all, not to be cliche, but pulled on the same rope and pass the baton and doing all the things that good offensives do. We look at the Blue Jays right now, and I know they lost last night, but that is an offense that does not have many superstars behind Vladdy and George Springer, but that
Mhm.
is an offense that works good at bats, takes their walks, fouls pitches off, gets on base, and passes it to the next guy. And that's just something that the Rangers have not done these last few years. They did hire Brett Boone, former big leaguer and brother of Yankees manager Aaron Boone, to take over the offense. Brett Boone, who I like a lot, had never had any previous coaching experience
Mm.
at any level, not even just in the majors, at like in college, in t-ball, nothing. He and again, the offense got marginally better, but I don't think that is, whether that was Donnie or Brett or whoever, was going to change a lot of the things that were going on with this team. I think the hitting coach's primary job in baseball is work on game planning and doing scouting reports on the other opposing team's pitchers and all of these things. The hitting coach isn't making the lineup. Um, he's just making sure that the guys go into every day prepared for whoever's going to take the mound. A lot of guys these days actually have their own private hitting coaches that they see, that they see, whether that's in person or via video chat or whatever. So the hitting coaches, there's only so much they can do in this era of Major League Baseball. I think, you can be in the cage as much as you want, but if you're not going up there with a sound mind and having a good approach, you're not going to get on base, especially if you're having that disconnect 1 through 9. That's not, passing the baton, all of these things that the Rangers really did struggle with this year. I mean, there are so many times where like you look up and we're like, why did we just have a 10 pitch inning? Like, how did
Mm.
you guys only see 10 pitchers between the three of you? And I think that was one of the biggest issues, and that has been spoken about and written about. That Chris Young, the president of baseball operations, has talked about it so much over these last few months. And you especially for me, who has watched this team over these last 5 years, I kept, especially early in the season, I kept waiting for things to click, and it just like never completely did. They had some really good stretches, especially coming out of the trade deadline when they got themselves back into the race. They were 7 games back at one point. They got to 1.5 back, and they looked like they were going to make a run, and then they just kind of fell apart again. And I think going into 2026, they're going to need to, I mean, obviously put together a lineup that they think can compete, but figure out how to get these things back on track and having good at bats, having good approaches, and getting on base, 1 through 9.
Right. I didn't pay very much attention to the day by day. Do you think the lineup was not to dig into like the lineup construction? Was it top heavy? Was it just inconsistent throughout? Was did the bottom of the lineup just not pull its weight?
I mean, it was a real everything. I mean, especially towards the end of the year, as we got into September, there were a lot of injuries. Obviously, Corey Seager had a uh, appendectomy, which you can't plan for an appendectomy.
Right.
So like when your best hitter is out for the last 6 weeks of the season, that creates just kind of a crater. Marcus Semien, who plays every day, breaks his foot after fouling a pitch off of his foot in Kansas City. Adolis Garcia, again, a guy who has regressed over these last few years, who was the ALCS MVP in 23, who, before the injury would have been the World Series MVP, if he hadn't gotten injured in Game 4 in Arizona. Jonah Heim, who is the Rangers Gold Glove catcher, just has not looked like a sound person at the plate or behind the plate over the last couple of years. It's just kind of it's been injuries and regression across the board that is just it's hard to have a consistent lineup. I think when you look back to 2023 when the Rangers won the World Series, had the best offense in the American League, you look you we came to the ballpark every day and I'm writing out the lineup card and I knew exactly what the lineup was going to look like. It was going to be Marcus Semien was leading off, Corey Seager was going to be in the 2 hole, Josh Young was going to be in a 3 hole, Adolis Garcia was 4, and you knew exactly what the lineup was going to look like every day. And these last 2 years, it hasn't been that. Whether that's been because of the injuries or because when guys are not playing well, you have to mix and match and you have to change things around. And
Mhm.
that's not Bruce Bochy's fault, but that's just how you have to do things. If something's not working, you're going to have to keep changing it and figuring it out. And, you know, they never figured it out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Um, Speaking of Bruce Bochy, I know he's parted ways with the Rangers. This is probably it for his career, I think. I mean, if so, what a great career he had. Brought a World Series to Texas. Obviously, had that run with the Giants also. So happy that he had a good career. But on to Skip Schumacher. What are your thoughts on him? Have you had a chance to speak to him? What do you think he brings to this team?
Yeah, absolutely. Boch is a great guy. Obviously, you said great career, 4 World Series championships, three in San Francisco and 1 here. And I really enjoyed working with him. Obviously, I think you don't really know how these old guys, when they come out of retirement, like what kind of vibe or energy they'll bring, if they're going to be like old and crotchety or whatever.
Mhm.
Boch was great. He was like fun and very honest and maybe sometimes too honest. And but he was phenomenal to work with. And I think I talk about when Boch came in 23. I always said it feels like there's an adult in the room now.
Mhm.
And almost in a way, I think Skip, obviously, age, notwithstanding, I think it's the exact opposite where the Rangers needed an adult in the room in 23. When you look at when they went from 22 to 23, you just needed a steady hand, somebody to stabilize the ship.
Mhm.
And I think it's the complete opposite with Skip, where they don't need an adult in the room anymore. They have the players are the adults in the room, and they need somebody to come in and be kind of a energizing force to keep the culture moving. And I think I was joking with somebody. I was in New York for the ALDS a couple weeks ago. The week the Rangers hired Skip Schumacher, and so many people came up and congratulated me for getting Skip. Like I did something. They're like, I don't know. People are like, oh my god, congrats on Skip. And I'm like, oh, I mean, thanks. It's not like I hired the man, but like I think that says a lot about who Skip Schumacher is as a person. People really take to this guy, whether it's players, whether it's media. Everybody loves him. He brought Miami to the postseason in 2023, the first postseason they had since winning the World Series. And that was a 15-game turnaround when you look at Miami from 22 to 23 about how he was able to take a real young core of that Marlins team and have them play to their best potential.
Mhm.
And I think that's exactly what Skip is kind of going to bring to this Rangers team, which, like I said, does have a lot of veterans and again, Seager, Simeon, even Josh Young, who is no longer a young guy anymore. But I think there are going to be a lot of younger players on this team, a lot of rookies that are going to come in and get some consistent playing time. And I think that's exactly what, Skip is going to be able to do is help them perform at the highest level and, be able to create these connections. He's only 45. He's not that far removed from a playing career. And, and he's coached with a lot of different managers and been able to bring a lot of different experiences from those other managers and coaches that he's worked with that has just made him one of the most exciting young managers in baseball. I mean, everybody talks about him like he is he's a veteran manager. He's only had 2 years of experience, but you wouldn't know that by how people talk about him.
That's super cool because I was also reading at some of the stuff you were saying about the clubhouse vibe, how it's all almost straight business like no matter whether it was a win or a loss. So adding that element of a younger guy and a more fresh perspective of, keeping it light, I think would be a good mix for the Rangers. So that makes a lot of sense. Speaking about some of the younger guys, how does the farm system look? What is the health of, is it AAA Tennessee?
It's AAA Round Rock now down in
I
Austin.
see. Are there any
Um,
names jumping out from you from AAA that might come up and help the major league team, or what are your thoughts?
So honestly, the last few years, the Rangers farm system isn't really highly regarded externally, I will say.
Mhm.
These last few years, they made a lot of trades to try to keep the sustained success at the big league level. They don't, a real, honestly, great crop of pitching prospects at this year's deadline, getting some of the pitchers that they did. Merrill Kelly, big one, got of Arizona, a couple of pitchers, and Phil Maton and Danny Coulomb, relievers. I mean, I think externally, whether you're looking at Baseball America or MLB Pipeline or whatever, they kind of refer to the Rangers as a bit of a middling farm system. That being said, I still do think there's a lot of kind of young, exciting guys who could come up and make an impact this year. I think everybody's thinking about Sebastian Walcott, who's the Rangers' top prospect, number 6 in all of baseball. He's a young 19-year-old Bahamian kid who is like an absolute stud. He was one of the youngest players at the AA level this year in the Texas League. Again, he's only 19, and people are already talking about him making an impact as soon as this year. It might not be till 27, but right now, this year should be the target date for when Walcott will be able to contribute to this big league club. I mean, he has performed at every level. Can hit home runs. He plays really good shortstop. Can also play third base, second base. He's out in Arizona Fall League right now. He took a step back because of arm fatigue, but I think that's the kind of crown jewel, I guess you'd say, of the Rangers system at this point. But even looking at a couple of other pitching prospects, Jose Corniel made his MLB debut in the final game of the regular season out of the bullpen, which he doesn't pitch out of the bullpen normally, but they thought it was a good reward for the kid to come up after a Tommy John rehab, and I think he's the best pitching prospect in the Rangers system right now after some of the trades that have been made. Um, and I think he's going to be in big league camp come spring, and he'll be able to contribute probably as soon as possible. And I think another one is Emiliano Teodo, who absolute flamethrower, has two types of fastballs, both triple digits. He's been coming out of the bullpen a lot in this season, though he can be stretched out to be a starter. And I think whether they use him in either of those roles is going to depend on the big league club's needs, honestly. But he went through a lot of injuries this year, so that he hasn't really been able to have the same consistency that he has in the last few years, especially in 23 and 24 when he kind of broke out and became one of the top prospects in the system. But he's another one I think is really important to watch and see how he develops as he nears his MLB debut. And even other names like Winston Santos dealt with some back injuries this year. He should be at least people will have an eye on him this year, and even some of the younger guys throughout the system, some of the young hitters, whether that's Malcolm Moore, the first rounder in 24, Dylan Dryling, the second rounder, AJ Russell was second rounder this year. There's a lot of interesting names, even if they're not as highly regarded outside of the system as they are internally.
Hmm. A lot of names to keep track of. Wanted
It's
to
all in
ask you,
here.
yeah, ask you with your scout hat on, what is like the X factor that makes somebody believe that this guy is going to translate to the next level? Because you would love to think that like it's a linear progression, like this guy's batting 300, he's gonna do well moving up. That's not always the case. So, is there anything that scouts, the people making decisions on where the players are going to move up and when they're going to make their debut on AAA, the major league level, what is like something that they look at and say like, aside from the numbers, this person is ready to take that next step? Is it like a certain number of at bats, certain number of innings pitched? Is it like their uniqueness in the stuff that they have? What exactly like creates a progression into the next level for a young player like some of the guys you're talking about?
Yeah, I think the Rangers, one word that really comes up a lot when you talk to Rangers front office and scouts is, makeup. And I know makeup can mean a lot of different things.
Mhm.
But especially when you talk about, the amateur scouting, and you said it, development really isn't linear. Chris Young, the president of baseball operations, says it a lot. Especially in terms of pitching development, it's not linear. You're going to have ups and downs and peaks and valleys, but the biggest thing is being able to minimize those peaks and valleys and try to stay even throughout your entire career and your development. So I think when you're looking at the makeup of a player, how does this guy react to his successes and failures? How does he bounce back when he kind of gets punched in the face type of thing? And I
Mhm.
think right now, one of the biggest one of the biggest development successes for the Rangers recently has been Jack Leiter, who was the number 2 overall in the 2021 draft out of Vanderbilt. Obviously, was one of the best pitchers in college baseball that we had really ever seen. Especially that 1-2 punch of him and Kumar Rocker that year when they took Vanderbilt to the national championship, lost to Mississippi State. But again, Jack Leiter, he has a famous dad who was in the big leagues, Al, and
Yeah.
um, so he's a name. He came from a good college program, and he was a very highly sought after amateur prospect. And then he struggled for a couple of years coming out of college. He debuted in Double A, repeated the level the next year, had ERAs north of 5 in each of those years, but pretty consistently, Chris Young talked about how, hey, it's not um, it's not linear. This progression is going to happen, and the makeup of a guy like Jack, he's going to be able to keep going forward with this. And then the next year is the Pacific Coast League Pitcher of the Year in AAA. He debuts, struggles a bit at the big league level, and then this year has a 3.6 ERA at the big league level as a part of this, like I said, record breaking um, rotation for the Rangers, the best in franchise history. So I think when you look at honestly, amateurs or professionals, when you're talking about guys that you're trying to acquire at the big league level already, how does the makeup of this guy fit into this organization, to this clubhouse, to this team, but also how is he going to continue to get better, even at his age or at his level or whatever. And I think that's one of the biggest things for the Rangers when they're trying to acquire players is, that makeup and how they're going to continue to develop as they continue in their careers.
That's pretty solid philosophy. Um, and I did want to also ask about Chris Young. He's obviously a former major leaguer. How intimidating is he?
He's so tall, dude.
Yeah.
Like he's all Ivy League at Princeton as a basketball player and a baseball player. It's
Mhm.
kind of insane. But obviously, Chris Young, he's from Dallas. He was drafted by the Rangers, played for the Rangers, and then won a World Series in Kansas City in 2015 as a player. And then he worked in the commissioner's office. Now is the president of baseball operations for the Texas Rangers. He's a guy I think that really loves this organization and really understands the fan base and wants to win for the fan base. And I think that comes from him being from the Metroplex. He knows how people in this city in this area feel about their sports teams, and he wants to bring a winner to this fan base. And I think that's really important for somebody who's running an organization. I think everybody obviously wants to win a championship, whether you're in the organization or not. But I think it feels special for Chris Young, especially being from here. Um, and he's just so tall.
Yeah.
6'11", man. Like it's crazy.
That's something like I don't always see it through the TV, but I remember growing up seeing it through the TV. Like this guy's gigantic. I remember I'm a diehard Cubs fan. I remember seeing that Rangers Cubs game where he got into a little altercation with Derek Lee. Derek Lee's no small human.
Oh,
He's not
right.
small, but Chris made him look tiny.
Oh, the Mavs were out at a game sometime over the summer, like throwing out the first pitch, and it was like he was standing next to Clay Thompson and Derek Lively, I think, and he's like looking Derek Lively eye to eye. Like not many people just look Derek Lively eye to eye, and he's taller than Clay Thompson. And
Yep.
like I know Clay Thompson's a guard, but like, dude, it's insane.
Yeah, it's funny. There is a lot to say about like it matters who's running the organization. Like the hometown people care a lot more.
Hmm.
I think you see that like especially with like LSU, a lot of the homegrown talent stays in Louisiana.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I'm trying to pull parallels to other places, but the fans feel that, and it's super cool when it happens. So I'm happy for Chris Young, happy for the Rangers. Um, did you did you ever work in the old stadium, the Arlington ballpark at Arlington, or no?
I didn't actually. So my first year was in 21, and the new stadium opened in 2020. The old stadium is still up. It's still there. I guess they play high school football there. They play Major League Rugby there.
Hmm.
I think the second level of MLS. What I don't know what that's called. Um,
Me
but
neither.
yeah, I don't know anything about soccer, but it is still like being utilized. I've been in there. There's a Starbucks in there, so I go in there and get a coffee.
Nice.
Sometimes I'll walk there from the new ballpark, but I'd never covered a game there. I can tell you, everybody says it was incredibly hot.
Hmm.
Obviously, and that's the reason we have a new ballpark is because that roof is maybe the best thing that ever happened to my career because there's nothing like there's nothing like coming to work every day knowing you're going to play the game.
Yeah.
In terms of rain delays or whatever it may be, I know people are like, "Oh, baseball should be played outside." I get that. I sympathize with that. I have to be here 120 days a year. I love that roof. I'm not gonna lie to you.
It's retractable, yes or no?
It is, yes.
Nice.
So they do open it a few times a year, usually either early in the season or late in the season. Basically when it's not too hot. So it's Texas, so there's not there's limited opportunities, but usually the first 10, 15 games of the year, maybe the last homestand.
Yeah, for sure. Has there been a rain delay there yet?
No,
No? Okay,
they did
cool.
have to opening day 2023 against the Phillies. Actually, they had to we started the game, it was open, and it's the first time ever they had to close it midway through the game because
Hmm.
it started raining. So there was not a delay, but they had to close it in between innings.
That's such a funny question that I had because I'd actually experienced a 15-minute rain delay in Milwaukee once, like during the game.
Oh, what happened?
I guess they didn't see it coming.
Okay,
So,
got it.
and I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I know that like in Arizona they can't close the roof midway through the game.
hmm,
So that has been something that has come up before in that like if it starts raining, they're like, oh, we gotta like figure something out. But
hmm.
it's only they either have to open it or close it like before fans get in there, basically.
Has there has there ever been a conflict with the Cowboys? Because I think you guys are
Oh,
right next to the stadium, hasn't it?
yeah, it actually ruins my life with the traffic. I will say, anytime any event at Jerry World, honestly, whether it's a concert, whether it's a Cowboys game, um, the World Cup next summer is going to be a mess.
Hmm.
Like it's a I mean, they share a parking lot. Like that's like right between the two stadiums. Um, so I say the Bad Bunny concert in 2023 is the worst traffic I have ever been in
I
getting
believe
out of
it.
that parking lot. So we had a Rangers game that night that overlapped with the Bad Bunny concert, and I used to live in Arlington. I lived 8 minutes from the stadium. It took me like 45 to get home in that traffic. It was like the worst it's ever been. So I really, really dislike anytime we have to overlap with a Jerry World event.
That's funny. Especially I live in LA, so hearing these traffic times, it's like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Not to
it's
say one thing or another
different.
about it, but yeah, I get it. Well, cool. Do you foresee yourself? So you work for the league. Does that mean you're like, are you basically married to the Rangers? Could they reassign you to a different team, or how
They
does that
could
work?
if they well, yeah, we've had you know, there's I work for MLB.com obviously, so there's 30 of us, just like one for each team. And we've had people move around, flip and flop. I'm really good friends with our Royals reporter. She used to cover the Cardinals, and then she just moved over to covering the Royals a few years ago. So um, I would have to like agree they couldn't just like pull me off the Rangers and
Okay.
go like yeah, go to I don't know, Seattle or something. But it's not outside of the realm of possibility for any of us to move around if somebody leaves, somebody retires, or things like that.
Cool. So they're not heartless. It's nice to hear.
Yeah, and I enjoy being here. Obviously, I have friends here. It's close-ish to home, driving distance, and all of those things. And once you're especially covering a team for so many years, you get to know the people, the organization. Like, all those names I just ripped off, off the top of my head. It's like, oh, if I go to a different team, then you got to learn the system, you got to learn the front office, and all of those things all over again.
Yeah, that's a whole chore. So
Yeah.
hopefully you stick around for a while. So let's move on to the World Series. We're 3 games in. We got the Dodgers winning that 18 inning game yesterday. So if it goes a distance, they would have played 8 games. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about before we got on the recording. We both stayed up, and I'm very fortunate to live on the West Coast where it wasn't like terrible. But I mean that if you're there as a casual fan, obviously like not being in the World Series, would you stay for a whole 18 innings?
Yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
yeah, it's the World Series. Like, there's no, I think you've got to save till the final hour for the World Series, right? Like,
Right.
and like I know I say that as like I do this for my job, so like I'm always there, and I've covered an 18 inning game before,
Mhm.
and that's not particularly fun. Especially like they stopped selling beer in the seventh inning, they stopped selling food in the ninth, and suddenly you're there for another like full game. Um, so like I sympathize with that for sure. But I just yeah, it's the World Series. Like, why wouldn't you stay?
I didn't know they stopped selling food in the ninth.
Mm-hmm. This became a
Oh,
thing because I covered the Mariners Astros ALDS game three in Seattle a few years ago in
I remember that.
22. That also went to 18 innings, and they stopped selling food in the press box too. So like I was starving by the time we got to the end of that game. And I know because like we went down to try to find food, and they were like all the places are closed. Like you don't expect a game to go 9 innings. So all the workers are probably like they cleaned up already. Like it's over.
Mhm. Wow. I'm flabbergasted by this. Um, but let's see. We got a quick bounce back for game 4 today. We got Shohei going on the mound. What do you think about Shohei? What are your honest thoughts? Is he the GOAT?
Yeah, look, the Rangers were in the division with Shohei for all of those years when he was with the Angels.
Right.
I've watched this man beat up on the Rangers quite a few times. Um, it's incredible to watch. Like, I'll never forget there was this game in 2022. It was at Globe Life Field here in Arlington, and like he pitched like 5 and 2/3, allowed a couple runs, whatever. And then he also hit 2 home runs to like the deepest part of Globe Life Field, like Oppo, like over the visitors' bullpen, and it was just like a left-handed hitter shouldn't be able to do that into left center field. Like he just like hit 2 tanks to the exact same part, like, and I was like, what is this guy fucking doing? Like, and I think we've kind of grown a bit not numb to it, but there are like times where I'm just like last round he threw 6 shut scoreless, hit 3 home runs, and you're just like, what are we doing?
Some
Like, what is
video
he
game
doing
numbers.
here? Yeah, and it's like that's something you shouldn't like. You think about doing that when you're like 12, and it's little league stuff. Like you always
Mhm.
have that one kid in little league who's better than everybody else, and he's probably the coach's son, and he's the only one who throws hard, and he plays for first base too, and all of these things. And it's like
Yep.
Shoei's doing this at like the highest level, and I know people are like, "Oh, everybody's glazing Shohei." He should be
Right.
glazed because this dude is doing something that nobody's ever done, or like he's doing what Babe Ruth did, but better against better competition. And like pitching has never been better in Major League Baseball. Hitting has never been harder, and he is still winning like MVPs and pitching like having a sub 3 ERA in the big leagues. Like
Mhm.
that's not an easy thing to do, and he's going out there and doing it consistently. It's like I
Right.
just don't. What are we supposed to do with that?
Right. It's almost like the argument of like in the NBA, LeBron could win the MVP every single season, but they just won't do it. I don't see the argument the same way in the MLB. Like Shohei is doing things we've never seen at all, and like it's just not fair.
And he's going to win the MVP this year. He's going to. Like, there's not any like Kyle Schwarber's the next like closest NL guy, and you're just like he's and like I love Kyle Schwarber. I think he's a great player, and he hit all those home runs this year and all those things. He's not Shohei, and he's not going to win the MVP. Like the closest player is Aaron Judge, who's now in a different league. So there's no like real competition for Shohei to win another MVP this year, and who knows what happens next year. But I just don't see who else could win an MVP against him in the National League in the coming years. Obviously, you have kind of guys come out of nowhere like Cal Raleigh this year, contending against Aaron Judge. We'll see how that plays out, in a couple weeks. I think that'll be announced, and
Hmm.
um, just that, and Aaron Judge is kind of has the same argument on the other side is that there's not much competition because he's probably the best right-handed hitter we've ever seen,
Probably.
or at least one of. Yeah, so it's just we're blessed to be able to watch what these guys do on a daily basis, especially again Shohei doing it on both ends. It's just it's a phenomenal.
Yeah, it's crazy, especially in the lineup with, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. You have all those other pitchers supporting each other. It almost feels unfair. And real quick, while we're still on the World Series, did you have a prediction before the series started? Is it still kind of alive or?
I will say before the postseason, I picked the Phillies over the Mariners in six, so that obviously didn't happen. I think before this, I said Dodgers in seven, because I think a lot of people aren't really talking about the Blue Jays are a good team. They didn't get here by being
Mhm.
bad. They won the AL East. They had the best record in the American League. They're a complete team. They're not the Dodgers, and I think the Dodgers are going to come away with it. But it's really hard to repeat in this league. MLB hasn't had a repeat World Series championship since the Yankees in 99, 98, 99, 2000. So the fact that the Dodgers are even here is kind of remarkable. Like
Mhm.
you can say all you want about how this is a super team or XYZ, but it's really hard to repeat. And they're knocking on the door of it. Obviously, 2 wins away, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see how if these Dodgers starting pitchers can keep going deep into games to keep the ball pretty much keep the ball away from their bullpen. That's not very good. And that's going to be what wins them these games, and that's going to be how the Blue Jays keep themselves in these games is trying to chase these starters out. Like I know the Blue Jays lost last night, but they did tag Glasnow for a lot of runs early and were
They
able
did.
to get to the bullpen. And obviously, it didn't work out in their favor because their own bullpen kind of struggled a bit, but. That it really is the blueprint to beating this Dodgers team.
Mhm. And it's just, I can't get over the fact that that was their weak point, the Dodgers, and their bullpen held up for however many innings.
Yeah,
So,
a lot of innings last night.
so I don't really have like a bold prediction for them going forward in the series because if that bullpen holds up like they did this in this game, like I don't really see how there's a way for the Blue Jays. Before the series, I predicted Dodgers in six, so that's kind of still holding up. I mean, the Blue Jays aren't just going to roll over. I
No,
think it's going to go
I think
five.
this is a really good Blue Jays team, and I think if Vladdy is playing like Vladdy has been, and if George Springer can do what he did in the ALCS, and I know that's a lot of ifs, and you have like Bo Bichette on like one leg, and all of these things that I think it's not the odds are not in the Blue Jays' favor, but this is a team that John Schneider I think is really good manager, and he's been really good about having his guys ready to play each and every day. Again, I covered the ALDS in Toronto this month, and just being able to be in that clubhouse and see how this team operates, I think this is it's a well run organization, and as are the Dodgers. But I think this is the team, obviously, that is going to push the Dodgers as far as it can go this year, which is why obviously my prediction was Dodgers in seven. But I wouldn't be shocked to see the Blue Jays flip this thing on its head. Again, Vladdy can break out at any time, and I think that's going to be what kind of this series can and will hinge on.
Right. I do want to just highlight one guy also on the Blue Jays, Mexican national Alejandro Kirk, making all fellow
Yeah.
Mexican people proud.
Hey, first Mexican American homer in a World Series,
That's right.
or Mexican born player, I
Mexican
should say.
born.
There we go.
Because I know Dodger fans were quick to point out Austin Barnes of Mexican descent.
Yeah. Oh, yes, Mexican American Austin Barnes.
Who could forget?
No, Godspeed to him.
No. But yeah, let's I know we were touching on like the whole talk about the Dodgers being a super team. I don't necessarily follow in that line of thinking like they're ruining baseball. Um,
No.
what are your thoughts on, what can the league and I guess like the higher ups do to, I don't know, maybe like maintain a better level of competition throughout? Because you see some of these like smaller market teams not using the resources to the same effect that the Dodgers are using theirs. Like, what what do you think is something that can change to bring that level up or kind of incentivize going out and getting better players, going out and like fully committing to the competition and being able to compete for the championship? What do you think there's anything that can be done?
Yeah, I think the league has tried to raise the level of competition over these last few years. You look at, adding another wild card team, making it so there are more teams that can win a championship each and every year. You look at even the 2023 World Series, that was, the Diamondbacks and the Rangers were the last two teams in their respective leagues.
Hmm.
They had that last wild card and they snuck in and they were able to ride that to pennants on each side. And I think, um, obviously the Dodgers are using their resources to the best of their abilities. And I think a lot of teams are using their resources. I think the Dodgers have become the scary big bad Scooby Doo villain with, the Guggenheim money and all of these things where it's like, okay, yeah, but that's what Steinbrenner was doing for all of those years and has a lot of World Series to show for it. And I think they're, the Rangers are spending their money well. They quote unquote bought a World Series with a lot of guys who were not homegrown players, if that's what you want to call it. Um, there are not every team is the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I think that all due respect to the Pittsburgh Pirates, who have not spent a lot of money these last few years, and I think that shows. And they haven't gone to the World Series because of it. But they like these are billionaires, and they have money and they can spend it.
Hmm.
So I just don't think we as a general we can keep being like, oh, the Dodgers are ruining. No, the Dodgers are trying to win a championship, and there are a lot of teams who are trying to win championships, and it's like the Mets are trying to win a championship, and they did not make the postseason.
Right.
They handed Juan Soto like this big ass contract. That is money well spent. I think we should be playing our the best players the best money. Like it's just the Dodgers are also a well-run organization who aren't handing out money willy-nilly. They
Right.
traded for Mookie Betts. They signed Freddie Freeman when Alex Anthopoulos let him walk. Like there's a lot that goes into how the Dodgers are spending their money. The Dodgers also have a lot of homegrown players on that team. That's not just the big three like MVPs and the rotation that they built get a lot of um, the spotlight for
Right.
obvious reasons, but the Dodgers consistently have a very good farm system. They draft well, they develop talent well. They do a lot of things really well. That's not just spending the money that the Guggenheim Group has.
Right. I do feel like that gets lost in a lot of things. Like Will Smith was a homegrown guy. You
Right.
had some other like bullpen arms that have made a name for themselves. I think Anthony Banda came up through the
Yeah,
farm
Anthony
system.
Banda.
He went around a little bit, but Kike Hernandez was originally a
Right.
Dodgers guy.
Originally a Dodger. Even if we looking back at their 20, they won the World Series in 2020, like with, on the back of Corey Seager, who was a homegrown grown guy for them. Jock
Right.
Peterson was on that team. Cody Bellinger. Like the Dodgers are just a well-run organization. People can, talk about, oh, whatever, like how they want, but like they're just well run and you just kind of have to accept that sometimes.
Yeah, and that's tough for like all these smaller market teams to swallow. Like I'm blown away by the Milwaukee Brewers considering trading Freddie Peralta in the offseason over $8 million. That one, like, even though I'm as a Cubs fan selfishly okay with it, like that
Sure.
just sucks for that guy. Like this is
Right. It
like he cares
does.
about his team. He wants to be a part of something special that Milwaukee is hoping to do, and I hope they don't. But like for like Paul Skeens, like are the Pirates going to commit that money? Are they going to buck up? I hope they do. That's it's like the old saying, no team loves you like the one that drafted you.
Right.
Like and more also the other way around. Like you probably weren't going to love your next team as much as the people that believed in you initially. So
Right.
yeah, just
It's an interesting like conversation to be had about, how some of these smaller market teams just, trade their homegrown stars, to save the money or whatever. And I think, that's again, that's the Pirates and the Brewers and all of these teams. But I think those are also still well-run organizations, and they kind of keep not. I won't say the Pirates as much, but the Brewers do keep like churning out all of these really great pitchers and like players that have gone on to contribute elsewhere as well. And it's an interesting conversation to have about how these things go, especially kind of behind the scenes. On you wonder what kind of conversations are being had that we're not privy to at this point.
Yeah, and it's such a disservice to fans too. Everybody loves their team. You
Right.
want to see both
No.
fan bases happy, so that sucks. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Real quick, I want to get your thoughts on like some of the changes in the league before we wrap up. We're a few years into the Ghost Runner and the pitch clock. How have you felt that that's changed the league? Has it increased viewership like how our boy Rob intended it to be?
Yeah. I think you look at the viewership of the league is grown dramatically over the last 5 years. Just from 2019 to now, and I think the pitch clock has a lot to do with that. And I know I say this as somebody who has to be at the ballpark 120 days a year. I think the pitch clock is the best thing that Major League Baseball has ever done. Like to keep the game moving, limiting the amount of standing around, adjusting your gloves, do like whatever. Like I think it is a really good thing that the league has done it has increased viewership, and I think it really shows. Like I watch a lot of college baseball because I went to LSU, and you can tell like those games are infinitely longer, and
Mm.
if you feel it, just increasing the pace of play has made I I think it's a more watchable product. Just seeing how hey, you have 15 seconds. There's a runner on, like get set, like pitch. Like I think that has just made it better for the players. It keeps honestly, I think it's better on player bodies. Like I think it's better for catchers across the league to not, be kneeling for 4 hours a day
Right.
or squatting. I mean, like all of these things, I think the pitch clock is like probably the most innovative thing that Major League Baseball has ever done, and it's worked flawlessly. There's obviously been hiccups here and there, and there's been, guys getting angry about the pitch clock or like not getting there, so getting your automatic strike or whatever. But I think it has been like the best thing that baseball has done. And the Ghost Runner, I think it's like, okay, let's get we don't need a 15 inning marathons on a Tuesday in July. Like all due respect to, every game matters, I know, but like we don't need to be here till 2 a.m. in like on a random like game 142. Like
Yeah.
I think I like that we don't have it in the postseason. I think that is a good thing they've done. But in the regular season, I'm like completely fine with the Ghost Runner. I know so like you're very like that varies person to person. I know a lot of fans don't really like it. I'm fine with it. I think it's like I don't think it's a crazy thing.
Yeah. I'm super cool with the Ghost Runner too. Like sometimes I just want to get on with it. And
Yeah.
a quick thought about the pitch clock, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. I have this theory that it's also kind of helped with you mentioned it earlier in the interview, how pitching has never been better. And I think the pitch clock kind of works in the batter's favor in that the pitchers, maybe some of the pitchers have been like they grew up without it. So now they're out of their own rhythm. So that kind of throws them off
Yeah.
and gives, a batter more of like like we're working in the cage, like we're more like on my pace. And I think that's like a net positive to the batter. Is that something that you think works to their
I can
favor a
see
little bit?
that. I do think like some pitchers, I think Nathan Eovaldi for the Rangers has talked about that a few times, just kind of having to get back into your rhythm is a little more difficult now. I think there are times when you see like the catcher's got to come out and just say, "Hey, take a second. Like I'm not even gonna say anything to you, but like I'm just here so you can like you know get back into a rhythm." I think that matters for more some pitchers more than others. I know again, Nate is a guy who really does like to be in a certain type of rhythm, like boom, 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 like okay, set, pitch, like, and that matters for probably Nathan Eovaldi more so than Andrew Heaney or I don't know. That's just another name that I pulled out, but like it does matter for some pitchers than others, and more hitters than others too. To be honest, like Marcus Simeon always has a foot in the box. He's always set. Like, but some guys like to step out, take a breath, adjust, do whatever, get back in. So I think that's the mileage may vary person to person and player to player, but I do think that can be a thing for some pitchers.
Yeah, I wonder how some like pitchers and players would have like fit into this era. Like Nomar Garciaparra adjusting his gloves, doing his whole routine.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh God, we never would have. He would have infinite pitch timer violations. I think.
yes, yeah. So that's I think we've exhausted my list of questions. Do you have any questions for me?
Oh, I don't. I've never been on this side. I don't know. What do you got? What's your favorite sport? What do you do? Like, what do we
Oh
got?
man, it's such a close like edge. I do the podcast with Peyton, and we talk mostly football. If I love
Right.
football this much, I love baseball like this much, like just a
Wow.
tiny
Okay.
little bit more. Because I played baseball for 10 years, and so I've
Okay.
like been in the box, seen like probably on the same level as like you played softball. Like I know ball, you know.
Yeah.
Like I've seen the things that play out on the field, and like I can call out what's really going on, what should happen,
Right.
like in the spot on the moment. Um, so yeah, baseball is my favorite sport. Diehard Cubs fan. Um,
Okay. All Chicago teams, like
all
Cubs,
Chicago.
Bears,
Cubs, Bears,
Bulls.
Bulls, Blackhawks.
Okay.
I tune out the Blackhawks when they're not good. I'll start tuning back in when because it seems like they're pretty exciting now. Um, I live by every single snap of the Bears, so that's tough.
Sorry. That rough
That's
week.
that's all right. On to the next. 4-1 in the last five. Peyton and I
Yeah,
will talk
I
about it.
beat the Saints a couple weeks ago. That was rough. Saints are very good, so I get it.
Yeah, and then the Bulls are a bummer. Um, I've kind of tuned out the NBA also. It's just like what's our draft like strategy? What are we trying to do?
Yeah. I as a diehard Pelicans fan, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, so that's what I pay attention to. Was there a second part of that question, or I can't remember.
No, I think I was just talking about sports.
Cool. Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I'm all about. Either working
sure.
or just watching sports. That's
I
all
feel
me.
that it's all I. Well, no, that's not all I do, but I watch a fair amount of sports. So
Sports are great. I'll never forget my freshman year of college. I was like living in the dorms watching a game out in the common room. And this girl was like, "Why do you like sports so much? What's the point?" Like, blah, blah, blah. And
what's the point?
I was like, dude, I feel sorry for you.
Like,
You're not a part of this community.
right? So great.
Yeah. Sports are great. And with that, I think we reached the conclusion of this interview. Kennedy, thank you for giving me an hour. Thank you for contributing, being the first. Let it be known you were the first guest appearance.
Ooh,
Any last words
that's huge.
podcast.
That's huge. I love that.
So
Thank you for having me.
no, it was great. I definitely learned a lot. I'll be paying a little more attention to the Texas Rangers this upcoming season. I'll be mindful of the moves that are made. And yeah, we'll love to have you back on at some other point if we have any
Yeah,
big developments.
I'm always ready.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and we will speak soon.
Yes, sir.